Did you know that Max Verstappen finished outside the top 5 in qualifying for the 2025 Hungarian GP, more than 0.3 of a second behind the leader? An unthinkable gap for the four-time world champion. But this result could reveal much more than just a bad weekend. Comment below, do you think Red Bull is entering a technical crisis? Are we seeing the beginning of the end of the Verstappen era at Red Bull? Stay until the end, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Today we're going to break down what's really going on behind the scenes at Red Bull following an alarming qualifying for Max Verstappen in Hungary. Max Verstappen arrived at the 2025 Hungarian Grand Prix as the undisputed championship leader, backed by a solid record and dominant results throughout the season. However, qualifying at the Hungarian circuit revealed a reality that few expected to see at this point in the year. He qualified 8th, a result that wouldn't be serious for many drivers, but in Verstappen's case, it represents a real alarm bell. Especially considering that just a year earlier, in 2024, he had taken pole position at this same track and dominated the race from start to finish. What changed so drastically in 12 months? The difference in times also speaks volumes. Verstappen stopped the clock at 1 minute and 15.728 seconds, more than 0.3 behind Charles Leclerc, who took pole. That gap, 0.356 seconds, is unusually large for a driver who routinely fights for thousandths of a second in every qualifying session. And even more, so when you consider that second and third place were separated by just 0.011 seconds. The competitive level is at its peak. But Red Bull doesn't seem to be up to the task. What was most striking was the team's inability to provide Verstappen with a car that would even allow him to challenge for the front two rows. Instead, he found himself trapped in the upper midfield, surrounded by rivals with increasing pace, and with a car that gave him neither confidence nor consistency. Furthermore, the Hungarian isn't exactly a circuit that has been problematic for him in the past. In fact, his previous results there were proof that when he has a competitive car, he is almost unbeatable in these conditions. Therefore, 8th place qualifies as more than just a stumble. The demands placed on Max are extremely high, and it's clear he won't tolerate a car that doesn't allow him to compete at the highest level for much longer. His body language, his statements after qualifying, and his obvious discomfort inside the car are clear evidence that something isn't right. Another detail that has fueled speculation is the situation within the team itself. Internal tension has been increasingly visible. Contradictory messages have been heard from the technical management, some with a tone of resignation, others with an urgency not seen in years. The fact that Yuki Tsunoda also had a very poor qualifying performance reinforces the idea that this is not just an isolated poor performance by Verstappen, but a broader crisis within Red Bull. As rumors grow, Red Bull is trying to maintain an image of control. But it's becoming increasingly difficult to hide the obvious. The team is going through a period of technical and emotional uncertainty. The statements after qualifying in Hungary only confirm that something profound isn't working. The team, which in other seasons displayed confidence even on the worst weekends, this time revealed doubts that can't be ignored. Helmut Marko, one of the most influential figures in Red Bull's entourage, was blunt. He said the car was faster on used tires than on new ones, a statement that defies all logic in a qualifying session. If a setup performs more when it should perform less, it means the car is unbalanced, unpredictable, and outside its performance window. That's a direct warning sign for any elite team. Team principal Laurent Mekies also offered a statement that leaves much to analyze. He acknowledged that they failed to get the car into the right window. That phrase, although technical, reveals a frustration that goes beyond the specific result. It means they tried different setups, changed parameters, and searched for solutions all weekend, and nothing worked. They found neither grip nor balance. The car behaved like an unsolvable enigma. For his part, Verstappen was even harsher. He spoke with unusual honesty for someone who usually protects the team in difficult times. He said verbatim that nothing works, and that it's like going around in circles without knowing what to do. This reflects a total loss of confidence in the technical direction, something that until now hadn't been so clearly seen. Max isn't just upset about not winning. He's frustrated because he feels his efforts have no impact on the car's actual performance. The key to all this tension lies in the nature of the problem. It's not an isolated failure in a single part, nor a single error in the setup. The RB21 is showing symptoms of a conceptual crisis. According to the engineers themselves, the car is lacking grip at both the front and rear, a situation that is extremely difficult to resolve. And it's not just Verstappen who is suffering. Yuki Tsunoda also failed to make it through Q1, indicating that the problems are affecting the entire package, not just the number one driver. This puts Red Bull in a very awkward position. On the one hand, they have their star driver frustrated, visibly upset, and under pressure to maintain their championship lead. On the other, they face a technical situation that seems to have no immediate solution. Team morale is declining, and internal signs point to an urgent need for a redesign or, at least, radical changes in approach. Furthermore, the team's partial silence on some fronts has been interpreted by many as a sign of disorientation. Instead of offering concrete technical explanations, the messages have been vague, imprecise, and lacking clear direction. This lack of response reinforces the perception that Red Bull is going through a silent, but increasingly visible, crisis. The coming weeks will be decisive not only for Red Bull, but for the entire championship. What happened in Hungary cannot be treated as an isolated incident. The signs left by that qualifying session point to a scenario where an immediate reaction is needed. But that reaction cannot be merely emotional or communicative. It must be technical, precise, and in-depth. Because if Red Bull doesn't resolve the RB21 structural problems, it will be jeopardizing not only the present, but also the future of its relationship with Max Verstappen. Within the team, there is already talk of a complete overhaul of the setup concepts. The feedback received during the Hungarian weekend made it clear that the updates implemented at the circuit did not work as expected. The more heavily loaded front wing and the new cooling system did not correct the understeer issues or improve stability in slow corners. Therefore, the logical course of action would be to return to previous configurations that offered better results on circuits with similar characteristics. But that, in itself, would be a setback that Red Bull cannot afford with so much direct competition. Intensive work is also planned at the factory, especially in the areas of suspension geometry and weight distribution. The way the RB21 responds under mid-boost and in traction zones is very inconsistent. If they don't find a structural solution, the car will continue to be unpredictable. And that's something no elite driver is willing to accept, least of all Verstappen, who has built his career on absolute trust in his workhorse. On a strategic level, the next few Grands Prix will be crucial to regaining control. Red Bull needs circuits where tire management and aerodynamic efficiency work more in their favor. There, they could rebalance the championship, provided they can offer Max a more coherent car. Not necessarily the fastest, but one that is predictable, stable, and allows him to display his aggressive driving style, which until now has been held back by the car's lack of response. In parallel, within the team, they will have to address something even more delicate: the team's mental state. Because accumulated pressure can break even the strongest bonds. The relationship between Verstappen and Red Bull, although strong, is based on performance and mutual trust. If one of those pillars fails, the other also weakens. Therefore, it is expected that in the coming weeks the team leaders will do everything possible to show unity, reinforce their commitment to the project, and offer Max a clear vision of where they're going. What is clear is that Formula One does not stand still. While Red Bull looks for solutions, Ferrari, McLaren, and Mercedes are already making moves to consolidate their own aspirations. Any sign of weakness in Milton Keynes is seen as an opportunity by the rest. The pressure is no longer just technical, it is also political and strategic. Every decision made at this moment can have repercussions on the grid for the following season. And finally, there is Verstappen himself. Everything indicates that his physical preparation and mental approach remain intact. But the question is how long he will be willing to endure an environment that no longer guarantees full competitiveness. If there is no visible improvement soon, we will likely begin to see a change in his public discourse. A driver like him doesn't let seasons slip by without fighting for every victory. And if he feels that's no longer possible at Red Bull, the consequences could be far greater than a poor qualifying performance. With this outlook ahead, it's clear that the near future will not only be intense on the track, but also in the offices. The decisions made now will set the tone for the rest of the year. And perhaps, the entire destiny of one of the most successful duos of the modern era of Formula One. What we saw in qualifying for the 2025 Hungarian Grand Prix wasn't just a bad day. It was a clear warning. Max Verstappen, the most dominant driver in recent years, finished 8th, far from the times he's accustomed us to. But beyond the raw result, what really matters is what that performance revealed. Red Bull is facing a profound technical crisis. The RB21 isn't responding, the updates haven't worked, and the team hasn't found clear solutions. The diagnosis is no small feat: lack of grip on both axles, inconsistencies in the car's response, tension in the technical environment, and even statements from Verstappen himself admitting that nothing is working. All of this leads us to a single conclusion. Red Bull is at a crossroads. And if they don't react in time, the consequences could be far more serious than a poor qualifying session. They could directly affect the future of the most valuable driver on the grid. It's clear that the question is no longer whether there is a crisis within Red Bull, but how deep it is and how long it will take to resolve. What began as a rumor or a small sign on the track has now become a visible breaking point. Verstappen, although he continues to show commitment, finds himself in a new situation, one where his talent is no longer enough to compensate for the car's flaws. And that, inevitably, makes him look ahead with new questions. Leave me your opinion in the comments. Do you think Verstappen should continue to support Red Bull or seriously consider leaving? Is this the beginning of the end of his time with the team that made him a world champion? I want to read you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel.